There is a quiet illusion that wrong actions disappear once they are committed, that words spoken in cruelty evaporate into the air, that betrayals fade with time like footprints washed away by rain. But the truth is far less forgiving. Every action, especially those born from malice, carries a weight that cannot be discarded. It follows a person patiently, silently, waiting for the moment when it can no longer be ignored. What people often mistake for escape is merely delay. When someone harms another, they imagine the pain belongs only to the victim. They believe the damage is external, that it lives somewhere outside themselves. Yet the most severe consequences are never immediate, and they are rarely visible. They take root inside the soul. The one who wounds another begins, without realizing it, to fracture something within their own character. At first, the cracks are small, easy to conceal beneath confidence and excuses, but cracks have a habit of spreading. A person can silence their conscience for a time. They can drown it with distractions, justify their actions with clever reasoning, or surround themselves with voices that affirm their cruelty as strength. But conscience is not defeated so easily. It waits, it remembers, and when the noise finally fades, late at night, in moments of solitude or during seasons of loss, it speaks with a clarity that cannot be argued away. This is when the haunting begins. Downfall does not arrive like a thunderclap from the sky. It creeps in quietly. Relationships begin to decay, not always dramatically, but subtly. Trust erodes. Respect weakens. People who once admired them begin to distance themselves, sensing something unspoken but deeply wrong. Opportunities slip through their fingers, not because of bad luck, but because character has a way of revealing itself over time. The world responds, slowly but decisively, to who a person truly is. What makes this haunting so relentless is that it is self-inflicted. No enemy needs to pursue them, no accusation must be shouted. Their own actions replay themselves in memory again and again, demanding explanation, demanding meaning. The mind becomes a courtroom where the evidence cannot be dismissed. Every choice returns, asking the same question: was it worth it? And there is no defense strong enough to silence that inquiry. Those who cause harm often believe power lies in control, in dominance, in leaving others broken. Yet real power is revealed in restraint, in integrity, in the ability to stand before oneself without shame. When that inner authority is lost, everything else becomes unstable. Success feels hollow, laughter sounds forced, peace becomes unreachable. Even moments of apparent victory are poisoned by the awareness that they were built on something rotten. The haunting grows stronger as time passes, because time strips away illusions. Youth fades, distractions lose their charm, the future narrows, and suddenly the weight of past actions feels heavier than ever. The person realizes they are living among ruins of their own making. Not because fate was cruel, but because choices were careless, selfish, or cruel in themselves. And this is the quiet justice of life. It does not need to punish loudly. It simply allows people to live with what they have become. The downfall is not always public. Sometimes it is deeply private. It is the inability to rest, the constant unease, the feeling of being chased by something unseen but inescapable. It is waking up one day and realizing that the very actions once taken lightly have shaped a prison from which there is no easy exit. Those who watch from afar may wonder why such people seem restless, why they sabotage their own peace, why their lives unravel in ways that appear mysterious. But nothing is mysterious about it at all. Actions leave marks. Choices carve paths, and sooner or later, Everyone must walk the road they themselves have built. What haunts them is not revenge from others, nor condemnation from the world. It is the echo of their own deeds, calling back to them with unwavering honesty. And in that echo their downfall unfolds, not as a spectacle, but as an inevitable consequence of who they chose to be. Every cruel act leaves a mark that time cannot erase, because actions are not merely events that happen and disappear. They are seeds planted into the invisible soil of the soul. When someone chooses to wound another human being, whether through betrayal, deception, humiliation, or cold indifference, something irreversible takes place beneath the surface of life. The world may move on quickly, people may forget, circumstances may change, but the inner record remains, not as a memory alone, but as a spiritual imprint that reshapes the person who committed the act. There is a sacred order woven into existence, one that does not operate by human courts or public opinion. It operates quietly, faithfully, and without favoritism. Every action carries its own weight, and cruelty carries a heavier one because it violates something holy, the dignity of another soul. When that boundary is crossed, the act does not simply end with the moment. It continues to live on, echoing in places the wrongdoer cannot escape. At first, the mark is subtle. It does not scream, it whispers. It shows itself as a slight discomfort when silence falls, as an unease that cannot be explained, as a restlessness that no distraction fully cures. The person may not connect it to their actions. They may blame stress, circumstances, or other people. But the spirit knows. It always knows. The soul keeps accounts even when the mind pretends otherwise. Cruelty hardens something inside a person, but that hardness is not strength. It is damage. It is a scar that restricts movement, feeling, and growth. Over time, the person becomes less capable of peace, less capable of joy, less capable of genuine connection. They may still smile, they may still succeed outwardly, yet something essential has been diminished: the ability to rest without fear, the ability to look ignored without shame, the ability to stand before the unseen without flinching. Spiritually speaking, every human being is entrusted with a moral compass. It is not imposed from outside, it is written within. When someone repeatedly acts against it, they do not destroy it, they dull it, and what is dulled must eventually be felt more sharply to be noticed at all. This is why consequences intensify over time, not because God is cruel, but because mercy often arrives as awakening, and awakening can be painful. The mark left by cruelty also shapes perception. The person begins to see the world through a distorted lens. They suspect others because they themselves are capable of betrayal. They fear exposure because they have lived dishonestly. They interpret kindness as weakness because they once exploited it. In this way, the punishment is internal long before it is external. Life becomes a place of threat rather than trust. Peace becomes unreachable, not because it is withheld, but because it can no longer be received. What makes this mark so enduring is that it is carried forward into every new season. Time does not dilute it, time reveals it. As years pass, distractions lose power, achievements lose their shine, applause fades, and what remains is the self alone with its history. The mark grows heavier not because it has changed, but because there is less noise to drown it out. Silence gives it room to speak. Spiritually, this is not vengeance, it is order. Just as kindness expands the soul and opens unseen doors, cruelty contracts it and quietly closes them. The universe responds not with rage, but with alignment. A misaligned life eventually feels unbearable to live. Paths narrow, relationships strain, opportunities dissolve, not dramatically at first, but persistently, faithfully, as if life itself is whispering, "This is not the way." And the most haunting part is the mark cannot be transferred. It cannot be blamed away. It cannot be escaped by changing locations, companions, or appearances. It belongs to the one who created it. Until it is faced, acknowledged, and transformed, it remains silent, patient, enduring, waiting for the moment when the soul is finally forced to look at what it has done and what it has become. Conscience is patient because it was never designed to rush judgment. It was designed to preserve truth. It does not shout when wrongdoing occurs, nor does it immediately demand repentance with force. Instead, it watches, it records, it waits with a calm that can feel almost merciful at first. This patience is often mistaken for approval or indifference. People assume that because nothing happened immediately, nothing ever will. But conscience does not operate on urgency. It operates on inevitability. When a person commits harm, conscience does not always rise up in protest. Sometimes it withdraws. It steps back, allowing the mind to justify, to rationalize, to explain away what should never have been done. This silence is not forgiveness. It is restraint. It is the quiet before the reckoning, the space given for self-awareness to awaken on its own. And when that awareness is delayed, the silence grows heavier, not lighter. Spiritually, conscience is the inner witness placed within every human being. It is not shaped by culture or circumstance. It is older than both. It speaks the language of truth even when the mind prefers comfort. When ignored, it does not die. It simply waits for a moment when the heart is no longer distracted, when defenses are down, when the soul is alone with itself. That moment always comes. At first, conscience communicates gently, a fleeting thought, a sense of discomfort, a question that surfaces unexpectedly. Was that right? But if these signals are dismissed, conscience adapts. It becomes quieter, deeper, more patient. And patience in this case is dangerous, not for conscience, but for the one ignoring it, because the longer it waits, the more weight it carries when it finally speaks. There comes a time when life itself collaborates with conscience. External circumstances begin to mirror internal disorder. Sleep becomes restless. Peace feels distant. Success tastes hollow. Even joy feels fragile, as though it could collapse at any moment. The person may not understand why they feel unsettled. They may blame others, fate, or stress. But the true source lies within, the unaddressed truth that conscience has been holding all along. Conscience never forgets because it is not a memory, it is a moral awareness. It does not store events as images but as meaning. It remembers not what happened, but what it meant. The intention behind the action. The awareness present when the harm was done. This is why time cannot erase it. Time only sharpens the contrast between who a person is and who they know they should have been. Spiritually, this waiting is an act of grace. Immediate punishment would harden the heart. Delayed awareness allows the possibility of repentance, but grace does not eliminate consequence. It postpones confrontation until the soul is capable of understanding it. And when that understanding arrives, it is often overwhelming. The person realizes that what they buried did not disappear, it matured. This is when conscience speaks not as a whisper, but as an undeniable presence. It shows up in reflection, in regret, in an unshakable sense of loss. Not loss of things, but loss of innocence, of integrity, of inner alignment. The person begins to feel divided against themselves. They carry on outwardly, but inwardly they are haunted by an awareness they can no longer suppress. The patience of conscience also explains why people sometimes fall. Part long after the wrongdoing occurred, observers are confused. Why now? They ask. But conscience is not bound to timelines. It waits until the noise fades, until distractions lose their grip, until the soul can no longer avoid itself. Then it speaks with clarity that cannot be argued against, and what it says is not accusation alone. It says, "This is who you became when you chose wrongly." That realization is heavier than any external judgment. It forces the person to confront not just an action, but an identity shaped by repeated choices. Conscience waited for this moment, not to destroy, but to reveal, because only what is revealed can ever be transformed, and only what is faced can stop haunting the one who tried so hard to outrun it. Downfall begins inside long before it ever appears outside, because life does not collapse all at once. It erodes from within. What people eventually see as failure, loss, or humiliation is only the visible expression of an invisible decay that started much earlier. Long before reputation is damaged or stability is shaken, something more delicate and more essential begins to weaken, the inner structure of the soul. Every human life is built upon unseen foundations, values, intentions, convictions, and the quiet agreements a person makes with their own conscience. When these foundations are compromised, the structure may still stand for a while. From the outside, everything can look impressive, even enviable, but inside, the supports are rotting, and rot is patient. It spreads quietly, without noise, without warning, until the weight above it becomes impossible to hold. Spiritually, this is how misalignment works. When a person acts against truth repeatedly, they do not immediately fall. They drift. They drift away from inner clarity, away from peace, away from the sense of being whole. The soul begins to fragment. One part knows way at is right, another defends what is convenient, and another pretends nothing is wrong at all. This inner division is the true beginning of downfall. At first, the signs are subtle. A person feels less grounded than before. Decisions become reactive instead of wise. Emotions swing more violently. There is an increasing need to control outcomes, people, or narratives. Control is always a symptom of inner instability. When alignment is lost, fear takes its place, and fear demands dominance as compensation. As the inner structure weakens, integrity becomes negotiable. Lines that once felt sacred begin to blur. The person tells themselves they will stop later, change later, fix things later. But later is rarely a turning point. It is usually a deeper descent. Each compromise makes the next one easier. Each rationalization dulls the inner warning system further. The fall accelerates even though it still cannot be seen. Spiritually speaking, the soul cannot thrive in contradiction. When actions and inner truth diverge, the soul experiences tension. That tension must resolve somehow. Either the person realigns with truth, or they reshape themselves to tolerate falsehood. When the latter happens, the soul hardens. Compassion diminishes. Humility disappears. Sensitivity to others' pain weakens. This is not strength, it is numbing, and numbing has consequences. A numbed soul cannot feel joy deeply. It cannot experience peace fully. It cannot connect authentically. Relationships begin to suffer, not necessarily through dramatic conflict, but through emotional absence. The person becomes less present, less trustworthy, less capable of genuine love. People may not immediately identify the cause, but they feel the change. Distance grows. As inner decay continues, discernment fades. The person begins making choices that actively work against their own long-term well-being. They sabotage good opportunities. They align with the wrong people. They push away those who speak truth and surround themselves with those who enable illusion. This is one of the most dangerous stages of internal downfall, when warning voices feel like enemies and deception feels like comfort. Spiritually, this is when life begins to respond, not in anger, but in order. What is unstable inside cannot remain stable outside forever. The cracks start to surface, small failures appear, stress multiplies, peace disappears, sleep becomes difficult, anxiety increases. These are not random afflictions, they are reflections. The inner world is leaking into the outer one. What eventually looks like sudden collapse is actually delayed revelation. People are shocked when someone falls, but the soul is never surprised. It has felt the collapse approaching for a long time. Every restless night, every hollow success, every strained relationship was a signal. But signals ignored do not stop, they intensify. Downfall, then, is not something that happens to a person. It is something that unfolds from them. The external world merely echoes the internal condition. When truth is violated within, reality adjusts without. When alignment is lost inside, support is lost outside, not because life is cruel, but because life is coherent. And the most sobering truth is this: the earlier the inner decay begins, the more inevitable the outer fall becomes, unless it is confronted. Because nothing collapses faster than a structure that looks strong but is hollow at its core. Justifications delay guilt, they never destroy it. Because excuses are not erasers of truth, they are only curtains drawn in front of it. When someone commits a wrong and immediately rushes to explain it away, they are not correcting the act, they are shielding themselves from its weight. The mind becomes inventive in moments of moral discomfort. It searches for reasons, comparisons, and narratives that soften responsibility. I had no choice, they deserved it. Everyone does this. These phrases feel like relief, but relief is not resolution. Spiritually, justification is the mind's attempt to outrun the soul. The soul does not argue, it does not negotiate, it simply knows. And while the mind can rehearse explanations endlessly, the soul remains unconvinced. This is why guilt does not disappear when justified. It only retreats into deeper layers of awareness. It waits where logic cannot reach it. At first, justification feels powerful. It restores confidence. It allows a person to move forward without immediate discomfort. They continue life as usual, perhaps even with increased boldness, believing they have successfully rewritten the moral record. But what actually happens is more dangerous. The gap between action and truth widens. The person is no longer just someone who did wrong. They become someone who must now maintain a lie to themselves. Each justification adds another layer. One excuse is rarely enough. It must be reinforced by another, then another. Over time, the person builds an internal narrative so elaborate that maintaining it becomes exhausting. This is when guilt transforms. It is no longer a sharp sting, it becomes a constant pressure, a low-level unease that never fully lifts, a tension that hums beneath every moment of quiet. Spiritually speaking, guilt is not punishment, it is guidance. It exists to realign the soul with truth. When that guidance is ignored through justification, guilt adapts. It finds new ways to surface. It appears as irritability without cause, as defensiveness when questioned, as anger toward those who reflect what the person is trying to avoid. The more aggressively guilt is denied, the more creatively it expresses itself. Justification also corrupts perception. Once a person convinces themselves that their wrongdoing was necessary or deserved, they begin to see others through that same distorted lens. Empathy weakens, compassion feels optional, accountability feels like an attack. The heart becomes guarded not against harm but against truth. And truth, when resisted, does not disappear, it waits. There is a spiritual cost to living this way. The soul begins to fragment. One part knows the truth. Another part protects the story. Another part numbs itself to survive the contradiction. This fragmentation is deeply unsettling. It robs a person of inner unity. They feel divided, restless, and unsettled, even when life appears stable on the surface. Peace becomes something they talk about, not something they experience. Over time, justifications lose their effectiveness. The same excuses that once brought comfort start to sound hollow, even to the one repeating them. The words no longer convince. The mind grows tired of defending what the soul has already judged. This is when guilt resurfaces with greater intensity, not as a whisper, but as a presence. Spiritually, this resurfacing often coincides with moments of loss, silence, or transition, when distractions fade, when applause quiets, when the future feels uncertain, the inner defenses weaken. The soul takes the opportunity to speak. Memories return not as images, but as weight. Regret appears not as drama, but as clarity. The person realizes that all the reasoning in the world did not change what was done, it only postponed facing it. What makes justification so tragic is that it offers the illusion of control while quietly surrendering freedom. A person becomes imprisoned by the very story they created to protect themselves. They must defend it, maintain it, and live inside it. Meanwhile, guilt remains outside the narrative, knocking patiently, persistently, waiting for honesty to open the door. And guilt will always outlast justification. Excuses age poorly, they weaken with time. But truth does not age at all. It waits unchanged. When it finally confronts the person, it does so with quiet authority, stripping away every argument, every explanation, every carefully constructed reason, leaving only the undeniable awareness of what was done and what it did to the soul that tried so hard to explain it away. Broken integrity quietly destroys future blessings because life responds not only to what a person desires, but to who they are becoming beneath those desires. Integrity is not a public performance. It is an inner alignment between truth, action, and intention. When that alignment is broken, the damage does not announce itself immediately. Instead, it begins to interfere with the invisible pathways through which blessings normally arrive. Spiritually, integrity functions like a channel. When it is clear, life flows with a sense of order. Opportunities arrive naturally, relationships form with ease, favor appears in ways that feel unforced. But when integrity is compromised, that channel narrows. Not because blessings are withheld in anger, but because the soul is no longer positioned to receive them without distortion. At first, nothing seems wrong. The person may even prosper outwardly. This creates a dangerous illusion that integrity is optional, that success can be sustained without inner honesty. But spiritual laws are patient. They do not rush to correct appearances. They allow time for patterns to reveal themselves. And over time, something subtle begins to change. Opportunities that once appeared effortlessly now require struggle. Doors that once opened begin to resist. Relationships feel strained, not because of conflict, but because trust is no longer anchored in something solid. The person may work harder, push more aggressively, control outcomes more tightly, yet results feel increasingly unstable. Blessings arrive briefly, then disappear. Success becomes fragile. Broken integrity also distorts discernment. When someone violates their own moral center, they lose clarity about what is meant for them. They begin chasing things that look promising but carry no peace. They align with people who flatter rather than challenge. They mistake urgency for purpose and excitement for calling. The future becomes cluttered with near misses instead of fulfillment. Spiritually, this happens because blessings require stewardship. What is given must be sustained by character. When integrity weakens, the ability to steward increases in risk. Life responds by limiting access, not as punishment, but as protection. What cannot be held with honesty cannot be trusted with abundance. There is also an internal cost. Broken integrity fragments the soul's confidence. The person may appear bold, but inwardly they feel unworthy. They fear exposure. They hesitate to receive good things fully because they sense they do not deserve them. Gratitude feels complicated. Joy feels conditional. Even when blessings arrive, they are shadowed by anxiety. This inner contradiction sends a signal into the future. A person cannot fully step into what they secretly believe they are unfit to carry, so they unconsciously sabotage growth. They delay decisions. They overthink opportunities. They pull back at critical moments. From the outside, it looks like bad timing. From the inside, it is misalignment. Spiritually, integrity is what allows blessing to remain. Without it, favor leaks away. Peace dissolves quickly. Growth becomes exhausting. The person is always repairing instead of building, always explaining instead of resting, always surviving instead of expanding. What makes this destruction quiet is that it rarely feels dramatic. There is no single moment to blame, no clear collapse, just a gradual thinning of grace, a subtle withdrawal of ease, a growing sense that life is harder than it needs to be. Broken integrity does not shout its consequences, it whispers them into the future. It shapes tomorrow by eroding the foundation meant to support it, and unless alignment is restored, the blessings meant to arrive will either pass by unnoticed or arrive only to slip away, leaving behind confusion instead of fulfillment, effort instead of reward, and longing instead of peace. Isolation is the first punishment of a corrupted heart, because separation always begins within before it appears around a person, long before others step. Away, something inside withdraws. The heart that once felt connected, open, and responsive slowly turns inward, not in reflection, but in defense. This inward turn creates distance that no explanation can bridge, because it is not caused by misunderstanding but by misalignment. Spiritually, human beings are designed for connection, not shallow association, but meaningful communion built on trust, sincerity, and shared truth. When a person violates these foundations through deceit, betrayal, or cruelty, connection becomes dangerous rather than nourishing. The corrupted heart senses this instinctively. It begins to guard itself, not to protect goodness, but to protect the false self it has constructed. Walls rise quietly. At first, isolation does not feel like punishment. It feels like relief. Fewer questions, less accountability, more control. The person convinces themselves they are simply becoming independent, selective, or focused. But independence born from integrity feels expansive. Isolation born from corruption feels tight, defensive, and heavy. The difference reveals itself over time. As integrity erodes, trust weakens naturally. People sense inconsistency even when they cannot name it. Words feel hollow, promises feel uncertain, presence feels conditional. Without confrontation or drama, others begin to pull back. Invitations slow. Conversations become surface level. Support becomes transactional. The corrupted heart notices this withdrawal, but misinterprets it as rejection rather than consequence. Spiritually, isolation intensifies because deception cannot coexist with intimacy. To be truly known requires honesty. To be truly loved requires vulnerability. A corrupted heart cannot risk either. Exposure would dismantle the identity it is desperately trying to maintain, so it chooses distance, even while craving closeness. This contradiction creates deep inner low. Nelliness. The most painful aspect is that isolation eventually becomes self-sustaining. The person starts assuming negative intent in others. Kindness feels suspicious. Silence feels hostile. Advice feels like judgment. This distorted perception pushes people further away, confirming the loneliness the person fears. What began as a consequence becomes a pattern. Spiritually, isolation also severs alignment with peace. When a person stands alone against their own conscience, they are never truly alone. They are accompanied by unrest. Quiet moments feel uncomfortable. Stillness feels threatening. The soul, designed to rest in harmony, now lives in tension. Noise becomes necessary. Distraction becomes survival. Relationships that remain begin to feel fragile. The person fears abandonment, but unknowingly creates the conditions for it. They test loyalty, manipulate affection, or withhold sincerity. These behaviors exhaust others. Eventually, even the patient grow weary. The corrupted heart interprets their departure as proof that no one can be trusted, deepening the isolation further. Spiritually, isolation is not imposed from outside. It is chosen repeatedly from within. Each dishonest word, each unrepented act, each ignored conviction pushes the person further from authentic connection. Life reflects this inner distance externally, not cruelly, but accurately. Isolation also affects how a person experiences God, truth, and meaning. Prayer feels empty, reflection feels unsettling, spiritual language feels distant. The corrupted heart avoids silence because silence invites confrontation, and confrontation threatens the fragile structure holding the false self together. Over time, isolation strips away support systems that once softened life's weight. Without them, stress multiplies. Resilience weakens. Small problems feel overwhelming. The person becomes more irritable, defensive, more withdrawn. Observers may describe them as cold, guarded, or changed. In reality, they are simply alone with themselves. Isolation is the first punishment because it prepares the ground for all others. Without connection, there is no correction. Without correction, there is no restoration. The corrupted heart becomes its own echo chamber, reinforcing every fear and justifying every flaw. And the tragedy is this: the door to connection remains unlocked. Isolation persists not because return is impossible, but because humility is avoided. Until truth is faced, distance remains. The corrupted heart stays alone, not because it was abandoned, but because it chose separation over healing, silence over confession, and solitude over alignment. Power taken through harm always turns into inner weakness, because strength stolen is never truly owned. When a person rises by crushing another, intimidating another, or exploiting another's vulnerability, what they gain is not power but imbalance. It looks impressive from the outside, control, dominance, advantage, but inside, something vital collapses. True power strengthens the soul. False power drains it. Spiritually, power is meant to flow from alignment, not aggression. It is a byproduct of integrity, patience, and restraint. When power is seized through harm, it bypasses these foundations. The soul senses the shortcut immediately. It knows something essential was skipped. This creates instability. The person must now constantly defend what they gained, because it was never rooted in truth. At first, harmful power feels intoxicating. The person feels untouchable. They enjoy the fear, obedience, or submission of others. They mistake silence for respect and compliance for loyalty. But fear is not allegiance. It is tension waiting to snap. And tension always turns inward before it explodes outward. Inner weakness beg. Ins as dependence. A person who gains power through harm becomes dependent on control to feel secure. Without dominance, they feel exposed. Without leverage, they feel small. This dependency reveals the truth. The power never belonged to them. It was borrowed from intimidation and maintained through pressure. The moment pressure weakens, the illusion collapses. Spiritually, this is why harmful power breeds anxiety. The person cannot rest. They must constantly monitor threats, competitors, and perceptions. They become obsessed with image, reputation, and control of narrative. Every interaction feels like a potential challenge. Peace disappears because peace requires safety, and safety cannot exist where power was built on harm. As time passes, inner weakness deepens. The person becomes reactive rather than grounded. Small challenges provoke excessive responses. Criticism feels unbearable. Disagreement feels like attack. This hypersensitivity is not strength, it is fragility. The soul knows it is standing on unstable ground. Harm-based power also isolates emotionally. Others may comply, but they do not connect. Genuine affection disappears. Conversations become strategic. Relationships become transactional. The person is surrounded, yet deeply alone. They sense that no one is truly with them, only under them. This realization quietly terrifies the soul. Spiritually, power without compassion corrodes empathy. The person loses the ability to feel others' pain accurately. They dismiss suffering as weakness because acknowledging it would remind them of what they inflicted. This numbing spreads inward. They become disconnected from their own emotions as well. Joy dulls, gratitude fades. Life becomes about maintenance rather than meaning. Over time, the inner weakness begins to sabotage the very power it sought to protect. Decisions become short-sighted. Paranoia replaces wisdom. Loyal voices are pushed away, while flatterers are kept close. The person surrounds themselves with echoes rather than truth. This creates blind spots, and blind spots are where downfall begins. Spiritually, life responds to this imbalance by withdrawing support, not dramatically but subtly. Situations grow unstable. Control requires more effort. Authority feels strained. The person senses that their grip is slipping, which only intensifies their aggression. The harder they push, the weaker they feel. The cycle accelerates. What makes this transformation tragic is that the person often believes they must continue harming to survive. They cannot imagine another way to exist. They confuse cruelty with courage, dominance with leadership, and control with security. But inside, they are exhausted. The power they once celebrated now feels like a burden they cannot put down. Inner weakness eventually manifests as fear of exposure. The person knows, deep down, that if the truth of how they gained power were fully seen, it would collapse. This fear shapes every choice. Authenticity becomes impossible. Vulnerability feels fatal. The soul remains armored, not against enemies, but against truth. Power taken through harm always betrays its holder. It promises strength, but delivers dependency. It promises control, but produces fear. It promises elevation, but hollows the soul. And long before others witness the collapse, the person carrying that false power feels it breaking them from the inside. Quietly, relentlessly, and without mercy, the mind becomes a courtroom where the past testifies relentlessly, because memory is not passive, it is moral. Every significant action leaves behind not just an image, but a judgment waiting to be heard. When a person commits harm and refuses to face it honestly, the mind does not forget. It prepares, it gathers evidence, and one day, without war, Ning, the trial begins. At first, the courtroom is quiet. The person believes the case is closed. Time has passed, circumstances have changed. They assume silence means acquittal, but silence is not innocence, it is preparation. The mind waits for the moment when distractions weaken and defenses lower. Late nights, moments of failure, seasons of loss. These are the hours when the courtroom doors open. Spiritually, the mind is not merely a storehouse of memory. It is a witness aligned with truth. It does not argue facts. It reveals meaning. It remembers not just what happened, but who the person was when it happened. The intention, the awareness, the choice. These details become testimonies that cannot be cross-examined away. In this inner courtroom, excuses are called to the stand and exposed for their weakness. "I had no choice" collapses under scrutiny. "They deserved it" reveals more about the speaker than the act. It wasn't that serious is weighed against the pain it caused. One by one, the defenses fall apart. The mind does not shout. It presents facts calmly, precisely, without emotion. That calm is what makes it unbearable. The accused cannot leave. There is no recess, no appeal. The trial happens internally, where escape is impossible. The person may try to suppress it, turning to noise, addiction, endless activity, but suppression only delays the session. When the mind resumes, it resumes stronger, clearer, and more focused. Spiritually, this relentless testimony is not cruelty, it is alignment. Truth demands coherence. When actions and inner values contradict, the mind works to restore balance. If the person refuses repentance, the mind becomes prosecutor. If the person refuses humility, the mind becomes judge. And if the person refuses accountability, the sentence is unrest. Witnesses appear unexpectedly. A memory triggered by a song, a face in a crowd, a ph raised spoken by someone else. These witnesses are uncontrollable. They arrive uninvited and speak with accuracy. The person feels exposed, not to others but to themselves. Shame rises not as humiliation but as recognition. The most terrifying part is that the verdict is already known. The person feels it before it is spoken. Guilt is not declared, it is realized. the weight in the chest, the tightness in the throat, the sudden clarity that what was done cannot be undone. This is not regret over consequences. It is grief over character. Spiritually, this courtroom experience intensifies with time because illusions weaken, youth fades, energy diminishes, achievements lose their shine. The mind gains more authority as the future shortens. There is less room to postpone truth. The testimony grows louder because the opportunity to change grows smaller. The person may attempt self-punishment, self-sabotage, isolation, bitterness as a way to feel control over the verdict. But punishment does not end the trial. Only acknowledgement does. Only truth spoken inwardly silences the witnesses. Until then, the mind continues calling the past to the stand. What makes this courtroom eternal is that it does not close with condemnation alone. It waits for confession. It waits for responsibility. It waits for transformation. But if those never come, the trial repeats. Night after night, memory after memory, each session reinforcing the same truth. Unresolved actions demand attention. And so the past testifies relentlessly, not to destroy the person, but to expose the fracture between who they are and who they could have been. The courtroom exists because the soul seeks alignment. And until alignment is restored, the gavel never falls, the witnesses never leave, and the mind never grants peace to the one who refuses to face the truth sitting before them. Restlessness is the price paid for stolen peace, because peace cannot be taken from another without being lost within oneself. When a person disturbs the inner world of someone else through betrayal, manipulation, cruelty, or calculated harm, they imagine peace is something external, something they can keep while others suffer. But peace is not an object, it is a state of alignment, and the moment it is violated in another, it fractures in the one who caused the violation. At first, restlessness is subtle. It disguises itself as ambition, as energy, as the need to stay busy. The person cannot sit still, cannot remain quiet for long, cannot tolerate silence. They mistake this agitation for drive. But spiritually, stillness is where peace lives. And anyone who avoids stillness is running from something within. The stolen peace begins to echo as an inner disturbance that never fully settles. Spiritually, peace is the natural condition of a soul that lives in truth. When truth is compromised, peace does not leave dramatically. It leaks. It slips away in small moments. Sleep becomes lighter. Thoughts race without direction. The mind replays conversations, decisions, and imagined threats. The body remains tense even in safe environments. This is not coincidence. The body remembers what the conscience tries to forget. Restlessness grows because the soul knows it is out of harmony. Harmony creates rest. Disharmony creates movement without progress. The person feels compelled to change locations, relationships, routines, and goals, believing external shifts will restore inner calm. But the disturbance is not situational, it is spiritual. No environment can soothe a conscience that has been unsettled by harm inflicted on others. Over time, this restlessness turns into dissatisfaction. Nothing feels enough. Achievements feel hollow, pleasure fades quickly, even victories feel incomplete, as though something essential is missing. The person may acquire more, demand more, push harder, but fulfillment remains just out of reach. Peace cannot coexist with unresolved wrongdoing. It stands at a distance, waiting for alignment to return. Spiritually, restlessness is not random anxiety, it is consequence. When someone steals peace, they inherit vigilance. They become watchful, suspicious, easily irritated. They fear retaliation even when none is coming. They expect loss because they have caused loss. This expectation shapes their nervous system. The body remains alert, prepared for threat, unable to relax fully. Peace has been replaced by anticipation. The stolen peace also affects relationships. The restless person struggles to be present. They interrupt silence. They create conflict where none exists. They feel uncomfortable with calm people because calm reflects what they no longer possess. They surround themselves with noise, drama, or constant stimulation to avoid the mirror of quiet. Stillness would expose the absence they are trying not to feel. Spiritually, restlessness is the soul's refusal to be ignored. It is a signal, not a curse. It says something is unresolved, something must be faced. But the restless heart often resists this message. Instead of reflection, it chooses distraction. Instead of repentance, it chooses justification. Each choice deepens the unrest. As years pass, restlessness becomes chronic. The person may appear successful, active, and engaged, yet inwardly they feel exhausted, not from effort but from inner conflict. They cannot enjoy what they have. They cannot rest in who they are. They are always reaching forward because they cannot sit peacefully where they stand. Spiritually, this state is tragic because peace was never taken by force, it was surrendered. The moment harm was chosen over integrity, peace stepped aside. It does not return through time or success. It returns through truth. Until then, restlessness remains the companion of stolen peace, reminding the soul, quietly, persistently, that what was taken from another has become a void within, and that void cannot be filled with motion. It cannot be silenced with noise. It waits patiently, just like conscience, just like truth, until the restless heart finally understands that peace cannot be stolen. It can only be lived or lost. Time strips away illusions and exposes the truth of a life, because time is not merely a passage of hours, it is a revealer. In the early stages of wrongdoing, illusion survives easily. Youth provides energy, noise provides cover, activity provides distraction. A person can outrun themselves for a while, convincing their mind that the story they are telling is stronger than the truth they are avoiding. But time does not rush, and it does not argue. It waits until illusion grows tired of holding itself together. At first, time seems merciful. It allows success to continue. It lets appearances remain intact. It even grants seasons where the wrongdoer appears untouched. This is where many misunderstand the nature of justice. They think delay means exemption. They mistake patience for approval. But spiritually, delay is not denial, it is preparation. Time allows patterns to form because truth is best revealed through repetition. As years pass, energy changes, the body slows, the mind quiets. Distractions lose their intensity. What once felt urgent now feels unnecessary. And in this slowing, illusion begins to weaken. It requires constant effort to maintain a false narrative, constant explanation, constant performance, constant avoidance. Over time, that effort becomes exhausting. The person no longer has the strength to keep pretending. Spiritually, time removes excess. It peels away what is not essential. Status fades, applause softens, crowds thin, relationships simplify. What remains is the self and its accumulated choices. This is when truth begins to surface, not as accusation but as clarity. The person starts to see their life not as they hoped it would look, but as it actually is. Time also changes perspective. What once felt justified begins to look small. What once felt clever begins to look cruel. What once felt necessary begins to feel cowardly. This shift is painful because it reveals the gap between intention and impact, between self-image and reality. The person realizes they have been living with a version of themselves that cannot survive honest reflection. Spiritually, this exposure is unavoidable because time reduces noise. The older a person becomes, the less energy they have to fight truth. Memory grows sharper, not softer. Regret does not fade, it matures. It becomes more precise, more honest. The mind stops defending and starts observing. And observation is dangerous to illusion. Illusions rely on momentum. Time disrupts momentum. Careers plateau, influence shifts, roles change. People who once protected the illusion move on. New people arrive who are not invested in the story. They see more clearly because they were not there when the narrative was formed. This is often when reputations change, not because new wrongs are committed, but because old ones can no longer be hidden. Time also exposes truth through consequence, not dramatic punishment, but alignment. The life a person built begins to reflect who they truly were becoming. Peace feels scarce, relationships feel shallow, success feels unstable, even blessings feel temporary. The person senses that something is off, but cannot name it without dismantling the illusion entirely. Spiritually, time is not an enemy. It is a mirror that grows clearer with age. It shows not just what was done, but hat was repeated. Not just mistakes, but patterns. And patterns reveal character. This is why time is feared by those who live dishonestly. They sense, even subconsciously, that the longer life goes on, the fewer places there are to hide. What makes this exposure so unsettling is that it often arrives quietly. No confrontation, no announcement, just a gradual awareness that the life they are living does not feel right, that the joy they expected never came, that the peace they postponed never arrived. The illusion dissolves not in fire but in silence. Time strips away illusion by doing nothing at all. It simply continues, and in continuing it forces the soul to stand still long enough to be seen. When everything unnecessary falls away, the truth of a life remains, unfiltered, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. The harshest justice is living with who you have become, because identity cannot be escaped. External punishment may fade, but inner awareness remains. When a person violates truth repeatedly, the soul records the pattern. Over time, the image they projected collapses, and what remains is the self shaped by choices. This realization does not arrive loudly. It settles in quietly during moments of honesty. The person recognizes that circumstances did not trap them, character did. They see habits replacing intentions, reflex replacing conscience. Justice begins here, not in events, but in awareness of transformation gone wrong within the soul alone. Spiritually, this justice feels heavier because it cannot be argued away. A judge can be persuaded, a sentence reduced, a reputation repaired. But the inner self is incorruptible. It knows what was chosen freely. When the person stands before themselves, defenses collapse. There is no applause to hide behind, no enemy to blame. The mirror reflects not a moment, but a direction. This is when shame deepens, not as humiliation, but as clarity. The soul understands it cooperated, it agreed. That agreement becomes the verdict it carries forward into every silent hour, shaping future days alone with memory and truth. Living with oneself after corruption creates constant tension. The person senses a gap between who they appear to be and who they know they are. This gap produces discomfort that no success can heal. Compliments feel undeserved. Achievements feel fragile. The fear is not failure, but exposure. They dread stillness because stillness removes distractions. In silence, the self they avoided becomes present. This presence asks nothing, accuses nothing, yet condemns by existence. The person realizes they are carrying a version of themselves they no longer respect or trust fully within private thoughts, daily moments, unshared reflections, sleepless nights, heavy awareness. This inner justice reshapes behavior subtly. The person becomes cautious, guarded, calculating. They avoid situations that might expose inconsistency. Authentic joy feels risky. Vulnerability feels dangerous. They begin editing themselves constantly, performing even when alone. This performance exhausts the soul. Spiritually, exhaustion is a signal of misalignment. What is false requires effort to maintain. What is true rests naturally. The person feels tired without working, anxious without threat. The punishment is not pain alone, but the loss of simplicity that once made life breathable and light, gentle, open, trusting, spontaneous, joyful, free, hopeful, relaxed, unburdened moments long ago within memory. There is also grief in this justice, not grief for consequences, but grief for self. The person mourns who they might have been. They recognize moments where a different choice would have altered everything. This grief is sharp because it cannot be rewritten. Time does not rewind character. The awareness settles slowly, deepening with age. Youth once excused mistakes. Maturity exposes patterns. The person understands that forgiveness from others would not restore what was lost inside. The loss is internal alignment, and no external validation can replace it ever, fully, again despite apologies, success, praise, rewards, attention, admiration, time passing. Spiritually, living with who you have become creates humility or despair. Without humility, despair grows. The person feels trapped in an identity they built unintentionally. They attempt reinvention through appearance, status, or environment, but the core remains unchanged. The soul recognizes imitation instantly. No costume hides truth from itself. This recognition produces quiet suffering. The person may function normally, yet carry heaviness everywhere. Laughter becomes shallow. Rest becomes difficult. Hope becomes conditional. The justice is subtle. Existence continues, but fulfillment withdraws, leaving life technically intact yet spiritually impoverished internally, daily, steadily, silently, persistently, shaping outlook, reactions, expectations, decisions, paths ahead. This justice deepens because it offers no distraction strong enough to dissolve it permanently. Pleasure fades faster. Success feels incomplete. Even moments of peace feel borrowed. The person senses an internal witness observing everything. That witness never accuses, yet never forgets. It remains present through achievements and losses alike. Living with oneself becomes the longest sentence. There is no parole from identity. Each morning renews the awareness of continuity. The self wakes unchanged. This continuity is the weight. Justice is not inflicted. It is inhabited daily, silently shaping every choice, thought, reaction, desire, memory, impulse, intention, pathway, direction, future unfolding. And so the story comes full circle, not with noise or spectacle, but with truth standing quietly in the center of everything. What began as small choices, hidden motives, and justified actions has revealed its final shape, not as revenge from the world, but as consequence written into the soul. Life did not need to chase them. Time did not need to strike them. Their own actions carried the weight, and that weight knew exactly where to settle. This is the unseen justice that never fails. What a person releases into the lives of others returns inward with greater force. Harm given becomes unrest received. Peace stolen becomes peace forfeited. Integrity broken becomes a future that cannot fully open. Downfall is not always public humiliation or dramatic loss. Often it is the slow realization that the life they built cannot hold them anymore. That the version of themselves they created is a place they no longer want to live in, yet cannot escape. And for those who were wounded, betrayed, or harmed, this truth offers quiet assurance. You were not forgotten. What was done to you did not vanish into nothing. It was recorded not only in memory, but in the moral structure of life itself. While you were forced to heal, they were forced to carry. While you learned to grow through pain, they learned to live with the echo of their own actions. In the end, everyone stands exactly where their choices have led them. Some rise lighter, others fall under the weight of what they refuse to face. And life, without cruelty and without haste, allows each soul to inherit what it has truly earned.